See, since there is no one Christianity or one Christian doctrine that all Christians believe in, it is not possible to speak about the Christian theology. But we can speak in terms of certain common points across multiple Christian movements, and in this sense speak about a generic Christian theology. Now, some of its basic points are the following, that namely Jesus, for instance, is the promised one, that he was promised by God actually to the people of Israel, which comes in the Old Testament. And because he's a promised one, he's called the Messiah. The Messiah means the promised, the messenger, the anointed, and that is Christos in Greek. And hence Jesus of Nazareth has been called Jesus Christ. Now the Christ who came down to earth, or Jesus of Nazareth, who became the Christ, is a revelation of God, is a fulfillment of the promise of God. And Christians believe there are two revelations of God. On the one hand, there is a revelation in nature. That is, nature reveals the handiwork of an author. All products that are there in nature reflect the will of the single author. And therefore, the nature is an expression of God's will. But that is not sufficient, because even if you look at all natural products and nature itself and believe in the existence of God, you do not know who the real God is, who the true God is, and how to worship him, because there are also false gods, the followers of Satan, who mislead human beings and take them to hell. And therefore there is a second revelation, that is the revelation in the book, that is the Old and the New Testament for Christians. In this revelation, God not only reveals who he is, but how you should worship him. So in this sense, Christianity, with the coming of Christ, the New Testament, for example, records the acts of Jesus of Nazareth and describes about the person that he is. It identifies the person of Jesus as the Christ and describes what he did and what he said. Now, Christians also believe that by following Jesus, it is not as though they'll go straight to heaven or anything, but the precondition of attaining, reaching heaven, or what they call the abode of their Father, is to follow Jesus Christ, to obey God's will on earth as Jesus has revealed them. And only in doing so can you hope and for the possibility of grace from God. That is, salvation, as Christians see it, is not something that is achieved purely by human act, but requires God's grace also. This is mostly what Catholics believe, whereas Protestants believe that no human action will allow you to gain salvation, and that is entirely the work of God's grace, God's grace. Now, point to understand is, it is not when Christians speak about human actions in the world, which is one of the aspects, let us say, of salvation, they don't merely mean following moral laws. They also mean following everything the God or the church tells human beings to do. So in that sense, if you could be a perfectly moral person, say someone like Mahatma Gandhi, but if you do not follow Jesus Christ, you do not become a Christian, then you have no possibility of entering heaven, no possibility of attaining God's grace, but instead go straight to hell. Now, of course, this is a crude formulation that I'm putting across, but this idea of two revelations, the revelation in nature, the revelation in book, and following Jesus, is one of the cardinal beliefs of all Christians. Now, of course, the belief also that Jesus was not merely a human being after all, even though he took the form of a human being, he is part of the nature of God himself. Now, there are a lot of discussions about what precisely is the relationship between Jesus Christ on the one hand, God on the other, and so on, but that need not interest us at the moment. So when therefore Christians look at other religions or look at other cultures and they claim they also have religion, they are forced to look in terms of their gods or God, which is mostly, of course, either the false god or the set of false gods. And much the same way, they believe that God revealed himself not only in nature but also in the book. They look for one or another or a set of what they call the holy books. When Christianity came to India, or in fact even the Muslims came to India, they looked around, especially the British, looked around for holy books, holy scriptures, looked for our God, and so on and so forth, because they were convinced, as I said before, that all cultures have religion. Indians also have religion, but of course the Indian religion has to be the religion which worship false gods. So in this sense, when we are talking about the Christian theology and its relationship to other religions in the world, we are looking at the relationship as Christians perceive them as a relationship between true religion on the one hand and false religions, and true God on the one hand and false gods.